So there's no secret that Mario Bautista is like the #1 enemy of the MMA community. Anybody but John Jones, I'll say, but regardless, you know what? I understand why people were frustrated with Mario Bautista, but I want to sit here and I want to defend him for a second. It's probably going to be a short video, but hear me out. And as always, I would love to know what you guys think about it down below afterwards. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Let's talk about Mario Bautista. So, from the online MMA community, I feel like that I am Mario Bautista's last fan. And that's not even to say like I'm a big fan of Mario Bautista. I don't really know him as a guy, and typically when I become fans of fighters, as you guys probably do the same thing, I kind of like, I look at them as who they are as a person. There's a lot of people that I really like watching fight. There's a lot of people that are like watching just as a person. I cheer for him, Beneil Dariush being one of those guys. He's exciting too, but you get the point. There's some people that I just like more than other people. I become fans of them. Mario Bautista, I can't say that I'm there at that level of a fan where I'm like, this guy's a great guy. I love watching him fight, but I can't help but feel so bad for this guy and what he's going through with the UFC community right now that I'm actually becoming kind of more of a fan of Mario Bautista. I have been watching Mario Bautista all the way since his LFA days. I don't know what year it was, but it was well before 2020. This dude has way more often than not. I don't want to sit here and say he's never had a boring fight because I'm sure there's one that I can't think of, but I've been watching this guy since before 2020. I knew about him coming into the UFC. He has been consistent in putting on great fights, showing great skill, showing the absolute will to win in there, that I can't believe somebody as exciting as Mario Bautista has one performance against Jose Aldo, and all of the sudden, like I said at the beginning, he is the MMA community's #1 enemy. Now, I will say, the memes are hilarious. Hilarious, where it's like, all right, guys, who should we match up next after the card? And we're going to take Francis Ngannou, Mario Bautista. Oh, you know what? Mario Bautista on a highway with 5 moving cars going at 80 kilometers an hour. Like, honestly, they're hilarious. But I'm talking about the UFC community that legitimately, and I'm sure that the people making those memes do hate Mario Bautista too to some extent. I can separate that, like, I can separate the humor from how I actually feel about things. I am so in a meme culture, it's an issue. But you have it to the point where people legitimately want Mario Bautista cut. You have it to the point where nobody likes Mario Bautista. It's like every single time his name's mentioned, I know I'm going to get in the comment section down below, oh, Mario Bautista, that guy's the worst. Like, and you have the most boring fighters. Personally, I don't think Merab Dvalishvili is boring. I find him exciting. I like his grappling pace. Conversation for another time as to why I find him entertaining, but it's fair to say that the majority of the MMA fan base thinks that Merab is a very, very boring fighter. Why is everybody talking like Mario Bautista is more boring than Merab? It's just not accurate. Did he have a boring fight against Jose Aldo? Honestly, I enjoyed it the first round and a half or so. Yes, he had a boring fight. Yes, I didn't enjoy his game plan against Jose Aldo. He held him up against the fence, but you got to think about it. Like, I get it. Jose Aldo's a beloved fighter. But I never really understood this mindset. It's kind of like that same Charles Oliveira effect that Jose Aldo's having, except not as much. Like, no matter who Charles Oliveira fights, or even to some extent Alex Pereira, automatically, besides Khalil Roundtree, everybody just hates the opponent. Maybe not so much Alex Pereira, but at my point being, it's getting there. You take Charles Oliveira, everybody hates Islam Makhachev. No matter who he fights, everybody's like, oh, Charles Oliveira is such a good guy. Like, everybody hates Arman Sarukian now. You kind of get what I'm saying? Like, it's weird how that works, and Jose Aldo's kind of having that same effect with Charles Oliveira. If you beat Jose Aldo, if you don't let Jose Aldo stand there and strike and do what Jose Aldo does best, automatically you're the worst guy ever. I'm going to be honest with you. Mario Bautista said at the post-fight press conference, and of course I'm paraphrasing, I haven't listened to it since, but he said something to the extent of, yeah, I was holding Jose Aldo up against the fence, but it's also Aldo's fault for not getting off the fence. I don't know why everybody's dogging on Mario Bautista for that, because it's true. Aldo should have gotten off the fence. Now, easier said than done, 100%. But Jose Aldo was also the reason why that fight was a little bit lackluster. He just wasn't pursuing the boring action. And to be honest with you, I really don't blame Mario Bautista for doing what he did. He held Jose Aldo up against the fence. He was probably up on the scorecards, and he decided to take a little bit of a lackluster approach. Would have I liked to see him strike? Yeah, who wouldn't, right? I would have loved to see a scrap like we usually see Mario Bautista get into. But it's so much easier said than done in the moment. What if Mario Bautista was like in an insane amount of pain. Throughout that fight, Aldo was doing an insane amount of damage, and for those of you who sit back and, if you're brand new to this channel or don't know this, I have a very extensive background in martial arts. There are times where you just get hit with things or you accumulate enough damage to where you don't really have it in you to fight and just absolute scrap. And perhaps maybe he's thinking about long term. I don't know if Mario Bautista has a family. I'm just like brainstorming ideas there. My point being, there are so many different circumstances and things that could have happened in that cage that led to Mario Bautista making that decision. Again, was it boring? Yeah, but I'm not going to let one fight from Mario Bautista, a guy who has shown so much talent every single time, just about every time that I've watched this dude in the LFA and in the UFC. He has been exciting. He's been a pleasure to watch. He brings all the talent in the world, and I can't wait to see how far this guy goes in the division. I don't get, just because of one performance, why you just completely change your tune on a fighter. Now, did Mario Bautista have a huge fan base to begin with? No, but he wasn't disliked. He was just one of those fighters like, oh yeah, Mario Bautista's fighting, and people talked about him like he's going to be a serious contender. Now everybody just wants him to get hit by a truck. And I honestly really do feel bad about that, because this is a guy who consistently puts his body on the line seriously. Like, this dude comes out and he scraps. One performance, and we don't know why, which was half Jose Aldo's fault. Like, I don't know how else to say this, because I know it's like something that people say a lot, but you try to fight Jose Aldo, I guarantee you that you'll want to be holding him to some point. And Jose Aldo, like, I would imagine, like, even at his age, is the toughest opponent Mario Bautista has ever fought. If you're up on the scorecards and you worry about the damage, if you're hurting like hell in the cage because you just went through a whole round with Jose Aldo, yeah, you know what? I might want to hang on to him into the cage too. I might not want to take another one of his leg kicks. I might not want to take another one of his right hands. Like, again, I get the frustration watching it. I didn't care to watch it either. But again, one performance will not just make me either hate Mario Bautista, I mean, unless he did something that was, like, I was trying to compare it to something, but the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is, like, it's understandable to change your tune when something happens. For example, Junior Tafa tapping out and then just throwing a little bit of a fit about it. Something like that makes me change a tune on a guy, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of how you are when you lose. Like, you're a loser. Like, come on, that made me change my tune on Junior Tafa. But for somebody to have a boring performance, I don't get changing your tune on that. A guy who has consistently brought entertainment to us for so long. One performance isn't going to make me change that on him. Now, if he shows up, I'll give him another fight. If it's boring, then yeah, I'll be like, okay, maybe the fan base was right a little bit. But if you get to like 3-4 boring performances, then I'll sit here and be like, yeah, Mario Bautista is a pretty boring guy. I don't know what happened, because he used to be really, really exciting ever since that Jose Aldo fight. Then I will agree with people in changing my tune, but I still won't look at him and I won't hate him, you know? And that's the problem with a lot of other boring fighters. Yeah, you have the hate mostly for, I would say, the Dagestani style. There are a lot of people who hate that, but there's also a lot of people who really like the Dagestani style. But boring fighters aren't necessarily really hated. It was just because Mario Bautista didn't let Jose Aldo get all the way to the bantamweight title and win the bantamweight title, and then he could have his big dream come true moment, as if Jose Aldo would have beaten the top 5 of the bantamweight division. That would have never happened, but people just wanted to see that so bad, and they're just deflecting that onto Mario Bautista, which I really feel bad for. The most important thing for you guys to remember too is it is also Jose Aldo's fault. You know that old saying too, where it's like, hey, everybody's just a follower and everybody just likes a winner, and that's just so true when it comes to sports. I almost want to say that's the biggest thing for UFC, but then again, I just might be super involved with the sport. I don't know, like, are there other sports that treat fighters to this extent? Like, you have one great performance, everybody loves you. Like, honestly, I was going to say Mario Bautista could come here and just absolutely school somebody, have the greatest performance, have a Showtime kick off the cage, and then people start loving him again. But I feel like the hate for Mario Bautista has been so manufactured that even if he did that, he just might be screwed for the rest of his career. My point being, for anybody other than Mario Bautista, it's so easy to change your tune about how the fans feel about you. You have one solid performance, everybody's like, this dude's going to get the belt, this dude's awesome, I can't wait to see him fight again. Then he either loses or has a subpar performance. Fraud checked, this guy was boring, doesn't belong in the top 15. It's the same kind of thing, and that's how people feel about UFC fighters as well. I just don't get it. I liked Mario Bautista when I watched him in the UFC so far, and I like him now. And again, the memes are funny, okay? Who should we match up next? Mario Bautista versus Machine Gun. Like, I find those funny, but there's real intent behind those sometimes, you know? It's just so weird to me. Let me know what you think about this. I would imagine a lot of people are going to disagree with me. thank you for being here. Watch this video if you want to continue watching the channel. YouTube thinks you like it the best. Take care, everybody.